Welcome back to the DCPU, where we refuse to believe that at Pepe the Frog 89 is lying to us for no reason. I'm Thomas, back again with my co-host Frank, and today we're going to be taking a look at the first, and only, television show in the DCEU, Peacemaker Season 1.
While completing work on the Suicide Squad in August 2020, James Gunn started writing a spin-off series based on Peacemaker, doing it mostly for fun and as a way to get through the COVID-19 lockdown. Gunn mentioned the idea to his producing partner, Peter Safran, who we've discussed on the show before, and said it was something that he would like to pursue. DC Films asked Peter about developing a spin-off of the Suicide Squad, and he immediately knew that Gunn would say yes to making the show. The question of where the show would premiere was a topic of discussion at Warner Brothers. The project ended up going to HBO Max, which Gunn believes in part is due to the fact that the streamer was relatively new and needed content. Additionally, HBO Max was willing to give Gunn the budget he wanted for the series. So I'm guessing outside of this, the other options would have been like cable networks.
I think it was between HBO and HBO Max, which is basically the same thing, but one's just on TV.
I was thinking like TNT and stuff, because I know eventually they would run Peacemaker Season 1 on cable.
It was before Season 2 aired, I think.
Yeah.
I wonder if they cut any of it out.
The first episode's got titties.
And the second or third episode.
And there's probably penis, too. In an interview with the New York Times, Walter Hamada talked about the future of the DCEU, saying, "With every movie we're looking at now, we are thinking, what's the potential HBO Max spin-off?" This was in 2020, and they ended up only making a single TV show out of the 8 movies released after the interview. So, great job there.
To me, the quote reads like he's saying, like, they're looking at every movie and they're saying, like, we need to get a show out of this. I don't know if that's what he actually means or if he's just saying we're thinking, like, could we get a show out of this? But if it's the first, then 1 out of 8 is pretty shitty. HBO Max ordered Peacemaker straight to series in September 2020, with Gunn writing all 8 episodes of the first season and directing 5 of them. Gunn and Safran were set as executive producers, with John Cena as a co-executive producer. During filming of the Suicide Squad, James Gunn felt that John Cena was a much stronger dramatic actor than people thought, especially during the scene where Peacemaker attempts to kill Ratcatcher 2 and the scene where he killed Rick Flag. James saw the vulnerability in John Cena, and he wanted to help him show the world that he was more than a comedic actor or wrestler. As this was Gunn's first foray into television after a long career of making films, he used his knowledge of television shows to help him adapt his vision for the new format. Mainly, with television shows, you have more runtime overall, so he really wanted to have the dramatic beats hang longer, feature longer action sequences, and extend scenes of humor, etc. Specifically, he cited Better Call Saul as a particular influence on him while thinking of the television format. He said that he drew parallels between Peacemaker and Saul, both being sort of sad sack characters.
Speaking as the one person in the call right now who's watched Better Call Saul, this is a weird comparison because I don't really think the two are that similar. But Better Call Saul is a great show, and I think Peacemaker is a great show too, and it is well constructed. I
don't think that he actually meant like, I was just thinking of like Better Call Saul while writing the whole thing. I think that was just like a show he liked at the time. Gunn wrote the series in 8 weeks during a break between his work on the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
There's like a span between 2019 and 2023 when he had wrote a Marvel movie, two DC movies, and 2 seasons of a TV show. 3! It's Creature Commandos. So he's a fucking workaholic, man.
I think he just said, I'm trying to remember because I listened to the Peacemaker podcast, and I think he just said like he likes having something to do all the time.
As far as casting goes, several actors would return from the Suicide Squad, including John Cena as Peacemaker, of course, Steve Agee as John Economos, Jennifer Holland as Amelia Harcourt, and Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. One of the show's new characters, Vigilante, was originally played by Chris Conrad, but due to creative differences with Gunn, he was replaced with Freddie Stroma. Conrad had already shot over 5 episodes of the show, so all of his unmasked scenes were reshot for those episodes, and he had to be redubbed for all the scenes in which Vigilante was masked. What the hell happened here? How do you shoot over half of the season before realizing this isn't the right guy for the job?
I just looked him up. I do not get Vigilante vibes at all out of this guy.
I'm not trying to speculate and say there was some secret reason why he got fired, something sketchy. I'm just wondering, like, how do you get this far into production before you realize this guy just ain't it? I don't know, it's just weird. They talk about it in the official podcast, but they don't get that deep into it, and it is kind of weird. I don't know. It's weird, but I'm not going to speculate. It's just unusual to me. I feel like that's the kind of thing you would catch way earlier on.
Yeah, I did notice that too, because they talked about it, I think, in the one episode they had Freddy on, but then they didn't really go too deep into it, and I don't know if it's like out of respect for the other guy that they recast, or maybe there was something more to it, and they just don't want to say.
Or it's like a contractual thing. Yeah, I don't know.
I think they made a good choice in recasting him, though.
I can't picture anybody else. Another new character, Leota Adebayo, would be played by Danielle Brooks, famous for her role in Orange is the New Black. Gunn wrote the role with her specifically in mind, and like we mentioned in the last episode, this is a pretty unusual thing for him to do. He doesn't usually write roles tailored to a specific actor.
So now we're moving on to the state of movies, DC, well, not movies, and the characters at release. We forgot to mention it before, but with the launch of HBO Max, the company would finally accept and start using the DC Extended Universe, or DCEU, name that had been adopted by fans for nearly a decade. As for DC films outside of the DCEU, just a month after Peacemaker's finale, the world would finally see the release of Matt Reeves' The Batman, which had originated as Ben Affleck's solo Batman project for the DCEU. This makes things even more awkward for the shared universe, as Affleck's Batman had been missing for half a decade by this point. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. It is bonkers to think about. They're still trying to run the shared universe, and they don't have their most famous character.
I think I'm thinking that he wasn't gone that long because Zack Snyder's Justice League threw me off. But like, when you think about that movie in timeline, that's like 4 movies even before that. So
it's just so weird. And then you've got this new Batman movie coming out, The Batman, which has nothing to do with anything.
As for the television side of things, by early 2022, all of the Arrowverse shows had wrapped, except for The Flash, which would hang around for another year. On the comic side of things, the biggest event of 2022 was the Dark Crisis event, which actually changed titles to Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths after issue number 4, which was done due to the series being a direct sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths. This was a huge event, so it was really like the only big event of 2022, and it ran with multiple spin-off miniseries and one-shots across different characters. In the comic, Pariah, who was one of the main characters in Crisis on Infinite Earths, attempts to create his own perfect multiverse and invades Earth-Zero with an army of possessed supervillains. As a result of this event, there was the creation of a new multiverse, including the restoration of multiple pre-crisis realities, and the disbanding of the Justice League. I can't fathom why the Justice League would disband after this. It seems weird that they're like, yeah, we have this giant, like, event, and they're like, we don't need the Justice League anymore.
It's weird, and something tells me that the Justice League wouldn't stay broken up for that long, because they still need to sell Justice League comic books.
Honestly, it's probably just one of those things where, like, the Justice League is breaking up, and then they just start a new Justice League, and then the first issue's like, we need to form a new Justice League. There was also a surprise collab one-shot between Batman and the FaZe Clan. FaZe Clan is a professional gaming group that has a bunch of, like, professional video gamers in it. Professional in quote marks.
Some of the worst human beings on the planet.
But looking back on this, it's probably not a very good look for DC now with all the shit coming out about them. In the issue, members of the Bat family join together with founders of FaZe Clan to stop a scheme from the Riddler. Some great moments from the comic. The Riddler's scheme involves something called a Nigma box. Which sounds a little sus considering it's a crossover with gamers. Do you think the writer knew?
I think calling the MacGuffin a Nigma box is already a terrible fucking idea, regardless of having FaZe Clan or not.
Some funny quotes from the comic include this quote from Mr. Freeze, and the panel's like a close-up of his face. And it says, "Did Batman really think a gamer could stop me?" Robin says, "FaZe Clan, I can't believe you're really here. Guys, I'm like your biggest fan." And then there's also a quote from the Riddler where he says, "Riddle me this, gamers."
Crossover, like, promotional comics are so funny. Do you remember that comic they had with, like, the Subway guy? Jared the Subway guy?
Yeah.
Meets the Justice League. And there's, like, a panel of him shaking hands with Superman.
That was like a whole thing. They're like, yeah, you have to go to Subway to get this little collectible comic series. I know there's one with KFC too, and the Colonel.
I think there was one where Obama met the Justice League.
Probably.
Let me look that up. Obama Justice League.
Obama. So how come when I googled KFC Justice League, granted I spelled Justice League horribly wrong, why are all the results in Spanish? Like, maybe this is
What do
something
you think
that
about
happened
this? I just looked up Obama Justice League, and this is the 4th result in images.
That's
You want to see?
weird,
You
not
want to see the
Justice
6th
League.
result? The 6th one is even better.
Oh, hell yeah.
And when I scroll down in Google Images off this one, there's like 20 pictures of fan art of Obama as Jon Stewart.
You know what? I've seen enough. Cast him.
There's so many of these.
Someone really... This is just one person making all these. Bleeding cool. Obama news, rumors, and information.
The fact that Bleeding Cool would have a section called Obama News, Rumors, and Information. Oh...
Rich Johnson really we need to cover all parts of the media world.
And in broader news, the Warner Brothers and Discoveries Inc. merger would be finalized on April 8th, just 2 months after Peacemaker wrapped for the season. As we briefly mentioned last week, this included Discovery CEO David Zaslav taking over as head of the new company. This would lead to the departures of several executives who we've been following along with during the show, including Toby Emmerich, Ann Sarnoff, and Jason Kilar, who had only just gotten there. It's
insane to me that David Zaslav is the one who is taking over this company, because he's the head of Discovery. The most they make is reality TV shows. Why is this reality TV show executive being placed in charge of one of the biggest Hollywood studios that's been around for 90 years at this point?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Any business majors who listen to the show, please leave a comment and explain how the fuck this makes any sense. And so we get to the plot synopsis and plot discussion. Except we won't. Because as you can already tell from the runtime of this episode, we are not going to be breaking down Peacemaker like we would the movies in previous episodes. Because Peacemaker is an 8-episode TV series, and when you add all the runtimes together, it's 6.5 hours. That would make this episode, after I'm done editing it, the first 4-hour-long episode of the show. So Thomas and I decided we're not going to do that. If you want information and a thorough breakdown of the plot, we both recommend that you listen to the official Peacemaker podcast with James Gunn.
You know, we really liked the long process of recording the Zack Snyder's Justice League episode.
Yeah.
We liked it so much we didn't want to step on it by recording an even longer episode.
The fact of the matter is we record these things week to week, and to watch and take notes and discuss all of this in less than a week, not to mention editing it, it would just be way too much work. I mean, we have day jobs.
Not to mention the fact that we yap a lot, and then sometimes the episodes go on longer than we thought that they would. So this would end up being 10 hours probably, and then we'd have to split it into 2 episodes.
Which I don't want to do. I thought about the idea of taking a week off, but I don't want to do that either. I don't want to break anything into part episodes. I just want to do the whole thing in one shot, and we were not up to the task of watching 8 hours of television and taking notes and discussing it and editing it in less than 7 days. It's just not, it's too much. Movies are much easier.
We'll put up the Patreon if you guys really want it. It'll be $1 a minute for each patron.
And because we're not discussing the plot, and because this didn't come out in theaters, and it didn't really have an effect on anything, I think we're just done. So, give us 5 stars, leave a review. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. No, just kidding. But we don't want to leave you with nothing in this regard, so we are going to do a discussion on the primary cast. We'll just go character by character and talk about each of them for a little bit. So, starting with John Cena as Peacemaker, a jingoistic vigilante who believes in achieving peace at any cost. Showrunner James Gunn describes him as a piece of shit and a superhero/supervillain/ world's biggest douchebag. After Peacemaker killed Rick Flag in the Suicide Squad, Flag's final words, "Peacemaker, what a joke," have had a big impact on him. I love Peacemaker. I mean, I loved him in the last movie, but he was kind of a shithead. I didn't want him to come back, really. I didn't want him to get his own show. But over the course of this season, he has some real fucking emotional depth. Like, he's not just funny, but, like, he actually grows and becomes a better person. And he's just a really engaging protagonist.
We don't see that much of him in the Suicide Squad. He's in the movie, but, you know, he's just kind of more of just a straight character. But definitely, even in the first episode, you already get to see that he has a lot more depth to the show. And then throughout the whole season, you see that there's a lot more to him than just, like, big buff guy who kills for peace. Even I think in, like, the second episode, when he starts crying in his trailer, because he's like, everyone hates you, you're a piece of shit, like...
Yes, when he has that breakdown in bed, and he's just like, why do you drive everyone away?
I don't think it's very directly stated if he felt this way before the Suicide Squad, or if it's more of a consequence of what came after, because he, like, feels bad for killing him, and then also he has this new team, and then he's like, oh, you're pushing them away.
I think it's a little of column A and a little of column B. I do think Rick Flag's words had an effect on him, and his immediate rejection by Harcourt and the abrasiveness with some of the other members of the team definitely contribute to that too. Not to mention his fucking awful father, who we'll talk about later. But I think part of it too is hinted at in the Suicide Squad. Like, we do see he really truly does not want to kill Rick Flag. Like, he's like, I'll do whatever it takes, even if it means killing a great man like you, sir, or something like that.
I did notice, though, there was a specific line, and we might want to talk more about it later with Harcourt. But she says something like, or he says, Peacemaker is like, Amanda Waller told me I had to kill him, and she said, she didn't say you had to kill him, she just said to stop the stuff from getting out.
I like the new characterization of him as like a trashy hair metal guy.
It seems right up his alley.
I like that he's got Eagly, who we didn't write down in the stock at all, but I love Eagly. Eagly is perfect.
There was a really funny moment I noticed in the second episode when they're shooting the stuff in the forest. Peacemaker has a Peacemaker colored bow, and I just thought that was really funny. Like, it matches the colors of his outfit.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about his outfit at all in the last episode. Like, we talked about Harley's for a second, and I think maybe we talked about Bloodsports. I love how he looks like a walking G.I. Joe. John Cena has, like, the perfect action figure sculpt, and then on top of that, his colors and his costume are, like, the most obnoxious and flamboyant thing possible. Like, more flamboyant than Polka Dot Man's. Like, just these bright reds and whites and blues and yellows, and he's got the fucking chrome toilet seat helmet. It's like, yeah, it's amazing. It looks so ugly, but the costume designers in the last movie and in the show, they do a really good job of bringing it to life.
That scene in the first episode or the second episode where they go to the fennel fields and he just walks in his full outfit, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm in uniform. Like, this is my uniform.
Yeah. What does he call the waitress? He doesn't call her sugar
Sweet
tits.
Cheeks.
Sweet Cheeks, yes, this is. I didn't know John could play the piano.
Yeah, there was the whole story about that too on the podcast.
That scene where he's playing the piano and he's recounting what happened between him and his brother, that made me cry, man, the first time I watched the show. When he was playing Home Sweet Home, the piano cover of that was beautiful.
I think it hit harder to me. I was like, oh wow, like, this is a very big scene for him, like, as an actor and just as the character too.
Yeah, I think the show does a really good job of giving Cena lots of opportunities to show his dramatic chops.
Even in the second or third episode when they go to the senator's house and they're like, oh, you need to shoot him now, and he can't, and his hand's like shaking. And he's like, oh, it's because I didn't have the double piece on my gun. Even though he just doesn't want to kill. And then obviously he changes by the end of the show. Or at least I'd say. Maybe not fully, but he's definitely different than who we see in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely grows. And I think you're right that a lot of it does come from the aftermath of killing Rick Flag and how that's affected him psychologically. Because I think he's usually just killed people he doesn't give a shit about. He just kind of dehumanizes people as, like, just criminals, just a statistic to check off. But it seemed like Flag was someone he actually looked up to and respected. And he doesn't have a lot of people like that in his life.
Well, actually, I think the biggest way that he changes is at the beginning, he seems very alone. And then at the end of the show, when he confronts the butterflies and they're saying, oh, like, we want to change the earth or whatever. And then they want him to not kill the cow or whatever, and he kills it, and he says that he did it for his friends because he knew they'd get in trouble if they didn't, which is pretty powerful, because basically the butterflies, they want to save the world, but then he doesn't even take that into consideration in his final, like, judgment or his act on what to do. Okay, so we have Danielle Brooks as Leota Adebayo, who is the daughter of Argus leader Amanda Waller and a member of Project Butterfly. Gunn described her as a co-lead with a different political view from Peacemakers, and said their friendship is the heart of the series, because they are the only characters that like each other despite the differences in their personalities and backgrounds. Adebayo is an original character created by Gunn, and her first name is taken from his mother. You see it pretty early on that it's after Fennel Fields is when she goes out to talk to Peacemaker, and is like, oh, is that like a real eagle? And they kind of have their bonding moment there, like when they become friends. Or maybe not friends at that point, but they become closer.
They definitely get along better than anybody else. Like, I think she is the only person on the team he doesn't instantly push away.
Or, like, antagonize. And it's interesting because she's not the normal person he would hang out with.
No, definitely. You look at this guy and you look at her and it's like, okay, he's not going to be friends with her. But he is. Like, they get along really well. And by the end of the series, she's probably his closest friend.
What about Eagly?
Other than Eagly.
So we learned that she's Amanda Waller's daughter, but then she also wants her to plant this diary that pins all of the butterfly stuff on Peacemaker in his trailer. And then she kind of has a hard time dealing with that because she's like, oh, I actually like this guy. I don't want to frame him for what's going on. And there's definitely like an internal struggle that goes between that and then when it happens and then he's mad at her and then their whole friendship kind of like is strained from that.
She's kind of in a tough spot because it's like she either betrays her friend or she betrays her mother.
And her mom got her this job, so she wants to do good and she needs the money. So it's actually kind of funny to see that Adebayo is her daughter because she's like nothing like her.
Yeah,
Complete
opposites. It is really funny actually now that you mention that because Adebayo is like the most affable person in the world. She's just so nice. Just so nice. And Waller is everything but nice. She's the only person in the main cast who's married and has a loved one that they have to worry about, which comes up a few times with Harcourt in conversation where Harcourt's like, you gotta get that person out of your life because they're gonna be a vulnerability that somebody could exploit.
I think that also that's just her own feelings on the situation given what's revealed in season 2, which kind of sucks that it's revealed in season 2 because it's a major part of her character.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of that is designed from the get-go and how much of it was thought up after season 1. Maybe we should just go right into talking about Harcourt since we're already on that path.
Yeah, we'll just jump around.
So Amelia Harcourt is an Argus agent who was assigned to Project Butterfly by Waller. Holland had a background in competitive gymnastics, which she used for many of the characters' fight scenes. And she's pretty ripped, too. She's in pretty good shape. Like, I can really buy that she's someone who's beating the shit out of these guys at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of an ice queen, but she does warm up by the end of the show. And again, knowing what we know about her in season 2, and we're not going to talk about season 2 in its own episode, so maybe we should just go ahead and say it.
We'll put a spoiler warning here.
Yeah, so if you just skip the next 2 minutes if you don't want to hear us talk about season 2 of Peacemaker.
Okay, so in season 2, it's revealed that Harcourt was best friends and maybe more with Rick Flag. So it even showed a flashback to them sleeping together, the day of or the day before he was supposed to leave for the Suicide Squad mission.
which puts her hatred of Chris into perspective.
It's very understandable. And then that was the part that stood out to me when they first have the scene at his cabin, and she says, like, she didn't say you had to kill him. She just said you to stop the information from leaking. And then, yeah, it definitely not only explains why she's so, like, hateful towards him throughout the whole season, but also it kind of explains her change, because in the Suicide Squad movie, she didn't seem like the same character in this at all.
No, she definitely didn't have the same sort of attitude. I mean, the fact that she would betray Waller at all shows, like, a kinder side of her that we don't get in the Peacemaker show. Which, I don't know, it makes sense. With the Peacemaker show, her motivations that we find out later kind of recontextualize her in a way that makes make sense.
Mm-hmm.
She's not my favorite character in the show. I think she's not boring. I don't think anybody in the main cast is boring, but she's definitely the least interesting to me.
Yeah, she's kind of like the straight man almost.
Yeah, in most situations, it's either her or Myrn.
I will also say it's shocking because you see this and she's pretty, like, cold-hearted. Then you go to the podcast, like the official Peacemaker podcast, Jennifer Holland is, like, the most bubbliest person, like, kindest person, and you're like, this is the same this is crazy.
It is shocking how different she is when she's talking out of character. Yeah, it is night and day. Do you like her and Peacemaker as a couple? I could take it or leave it, honestly.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 on it. I think it's a little weird knowing the backstory, but I mean, I don't know.
Not bad, but I wouldn't have a problem if Peacemaker was still flying solo, just banging barflies in each episode.
I think that there's definitely, I think it's more of it works better in the TV show, because I could not picture this working throughout, like, a 2-hour movie of them, like, hating each other, then getting to some sort of, like, equal respect level, because there's definitely some aspect to where she thinks that he's just this douchebag, like, asshole guy at the beginning of the show, but then throughout, as he changes, she does see that there's more to him than meets the eye.
Yeah.
So I think that it does work in some sort of sense, but I think that also it would have been nice for them to maybe have more one-on-one time to actually develop the relationship a bit more.
Yeah, and I would say also, too, that clearly the driving force of the show is not the will they or won't they of Harcourt and Peacemaker.
Yeah.
That's more
Which
of a
I'm
season
glad.
2 thing. Yeah, oh no,
Yeah.
me too. I'm also glad. I like the force of the show is Peacemaker growing as a person and overcoming his trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the stuff with his brother and his dad and what he had to do in the last movie, and learning to just learn how to make friends.
Yeah.
That all works better for me, and that is clearly what the show is choosing to focus more time on. So in that way, it's a success. So that's Harcourt. We got a few other characters here. If you want to read one of yours.
So Steve Agee as John Economos, an Argus agent who provides tactical support to Project Butterfly. In the official podcast, Agee shared that he reluctantly dyed his beard when first portraying the character in the Suicide Squad, and was not happy to do so again for Peacemaker. This is acknowledged within the series as a running joke about his dyed beard, which Cena said felt offensive and unfunny and showed how much of a bully Peacemaker is. It ended up leading to an emotional scene in the first season finale, when Economos reveals why he dyes his beard, and this moment allowed Peacemaker to reflect on his actions and realize the harm he had been doing with his jokes. Which was a really nice scene.
No, that was a very good scene. It makes me really sad.
I know, the way I think there's even, like, a tear in his eye when he's talking about it, and then not only does he have to, like, act like he's telling these unemotional butterfly people why he dyes his beard, and then knowing everyone is listening to him, and then after that's done, the butterfly just goes, huh, what a sad sack of shit, and then just turns and walks away.
Yeah, that hurts. That's rough for him. I like Economos. I think he's great. I think he consistently has the best lines in the show. Like, I think if Gunn's got a great one-liner or, like, wisecrack, and he doesn't know who to give it to, he always gives it to Economos.
Mm-hmm. He's great. The the scene where they're attacking the butterflies at the senator's mansion or whatever, and then he has to go after Judo Master. And they're like, make sure he doesn't leave. He's like, how do I do that? So then he hits the little car that he's in, and then he goes and bashes the back of Judo Master's head in with a tire iron.
Yeah.
And then he starts doing a little dance.
And then the two of them are forced to work together in season 2. So that's just fucking great.
I don't know how he was alive after that.
Oh, well.
I mean, it's a comic. It's funny, but...
Well, it's more than that. I think in the official podcast, they talk about, like, Judo Master having the ability to do, like, that old made-up bullshit some martial artists would say they could do, where they could shift their organs.
Oh, yeah, they do say something about that.
So maybe he, like, shifted his brain out of his skull or something. I have no idea.
It went down his throat into his body.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a blurb here about Judo Master either, but Judo Master is fucking great. Nut Lee, the actor, does a great fucking job. So funny. So few lines, but what a great performance.
What pisses me off is when Judo Master's eating the fucking the Cheetos, and so I'm like, I just want to punch him in the face.
We were talking about this before we started recording, but I really wish there were more costumed side characters. There's obviously Judo Master, but everyone else is just kind of a guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We got the cops, we got the rest of Burns' team, which are just normal people. But Judo Master is like wearing this bright green outfit pulled right off the page of some 70s comic. And I don't know, that's the kind of shit I like to see.
What if we put John Economos in the costume?
I also think that maybe Economos is supposed to be the James Gunn self-insert in a way, and also maybe an audience surrogate, because I think a lot of the audience probably looks like John Economos. Us included, in many ways. So that's not an insult, that's just a fact.
Oh, the scene where he kills the gorilla with a chainsaw?
Yes! Oh, when he slices the fucking gorilla. Oh, that was great. That whole fucking sequence was insane. Mm-hmm. I was not expecting them to have to fight a butterfly-piloted mech gorilla.
Which is mentioned in an earlier episode. There's a lot of things in the first couple episodes that are introduced that get payoffs throughout the rest of the season. And I think it's great.
Yeah, like I think Economos is the one who's like, oh, great, we have a fucking piano. That's going to be really useful. And then I think that's the same one later where Peacemaker is playing it.
There's stuff like that. When he first walks into his dad's house, he's watching like Fox News, and they're talking about these aliens are taking over people and ripping their faces off, which is butterflies. Just a lot of little things, which I think James Gunn does really great with paying off stuff like that. I've always noticed he does that a lot in his movies too.
Speaking of his dad, maybe we should just jump right into Augie Smith, also known as the White Dragon, Peacemaker's racist father who supplies him with technology to aid his mission. Gunn said that Augie was supposed to be a worse person than Peacemaker and a, quote, lost cause, with Cena saying he's the only character who doesn't have an arc or a journey. Which is true. According to Gunn, HBO Max was very uncomfortable having the character in the show, and it was a delicate situation keeping him in. The character is not his father in the comics, but that was always Gunn's intention. A lot of this information is pulled from conversations had in the official podcast. Yeah, no, his dad is he's a piece of shit. He's played by Robert Patrick, first of all, the T-1000, and he's fucking scary. And it's really funny because, like, when you have a scene of John Cena next to anybody, John Cena is always going to be the more physically intimidating person. But you stick him in a room with Robert Patrick, he's so fucking intimidating that he makes Cena look like a teddy bear.
Plays the character very well.
Yeah, he does a great job, and the character is such a piece of shit.
Especially because, like, yeah, he was a supervillain at one time or something, but clearly he's out of the game, and he's not physically fit or whatever. He's just some kind of, like, older guy. But he is very intimidating, even for just looking like a normal guy. That scene where he's in the prison is when I really, like, because earlier, like, he's just acting like shitty dad or whatever, and then he goes to prison, and he's like, you're in my spot, to that kid, and he's, like, very intimidating, and then all the white supremacists come down, and then they're like, hail the White Dragon. Very creepy.
Very creepy, and a really interesting choice to, you know, kind of fill out this character in a way that I don't think anybody would have expected. You you're making Peacemaker's dad not only a piece of shit racist, but you're also making him like a legit retired supervillain white supremacist named the fucking White Dragon. If it was anybody else, I don't think Peacemaker would want to spend time with this guy, because he's clearly a piece of shit who hates minorities and women and believes all these conspiracy theories. But he's desperate for his dad's love, even though he knows on some level his dad is a piece of fucking garbage. And he also relies on his dad for tech too, so that makes the relationship even more complicated.
I took a note while I was watching it, and at least in the earlier episodes, I said, like, he's the only person that he's really nice to and seems to care about. And it's arguably the person who cares the least about him on Earth.
Yeah, he reminds him multiple times in the first couple episodes, like, I never gave a shit that you were locked up in prison for 4 years.
Mm-hmm. And the one time that they're actually like kind of bonding, which is over Idris Elba's character's trauma about being locked in a crate with rats. And then he's like, oh, please tell me that's not the guy who shot you. And then Cena just kind of looks away. And then the joy of the scene and like any warm-heartedness that Robert Patrick was giving out towards him just drops, and he's like, how'd you come out of my sperm, or something like that.
Yeah, just all the warmth is sucked out of the room.
It's like a bold choice to make that his father, I guess. Maybe not, I don't know, not to us, but to the studio, I guess. They're kind of like, oh, racism or whatever. But it definitely helps enhance Peacemaker's character.
Yeah, it definitely helps explain how he turned out the way he did. Like the fact that he believes pretty much anything he reads off the internet, which we didn't talk about with his character, but it's a really funny running gag, is he's always citing random facts, quote unquote facts, that he's read off like random social media pages and forums about like Aquaman fucking fish and Green Arrow being a brony, and it's like, obviously none of that shit's real. But
except the Green Arrow one.
Well, yeah, the Green Arrow one's true.
Not only does it help Cena's arc, but also, like, I think it's nice to show that, like, I don't know, this, just like how in the Suicide Squad it kind of went against the norm and actually had, like, a message. Like, it's kind of nice that they have this racist piece of shit character in the show, and, like, then he just gets killed, like.
This ugly side of America.
Mm-hmm.
Just personified, and how it poisons future generations like Chris, and how he can overcome that and become a better person, like how we can all overcome the sins of our nation, and we don't have to give in to fucking bigotry. But that just opens the door to more trauma for Chris when he has to murder his own father.
Yeah, but it had to be done.
It had to be done. It had to be done.
I honestly thought it was going to be Vigilante who would kill him.
Yeah, me too.
But I think it was a big moment for Chris doing it. I guess we'll talk about Vigilante now. So we also have Freddie Stroma as Adrian Chase and / Vigilante, a self-proclaimed crime fighter who looks up to Peacemaker like an older brother. Unlike his comic book depiction as a superhero, Peacemaker's Vigilante is a foolish sociopath, willing to kill any lawbreaker regardless of the severity of their crime. Gunn felt this approach was what a real-life vigilante would be like. A guy who dresses up in a costume and goes around and kills people he says are doing something wrong. He's a sociopath, but he's got this sort of sweet aspect to him. And I'll just say it right now, I think he might be my favorite character in the whole show, just because of how insane he is and just the crazy shit he says and does. It's very hilarious to me.
Oh yeah, far and away the funniest character in this show. Freddie Stroma knocks it out of the fucking park with every line delivery. He plays that fine line of like delivering the most ridiculous dialogue with the most sincere intentions.
There's the scene, him and Peacemaker are having like kind of a heart-to-heart, and he's like, do you think that I feel bad when someone spray paints on a wall and graffitis and I have to kill that person? And then Peacemaker's like, oh yeah, like, it's like, cause it does. I fucking love it. And it's just crazy that he's just openly talking about like someone who graffitis, and he just like, yeah, I have to kill that person now.
But he has a moral code, which is interesting.
And he's not a piece of shit. Like, he goes in the prison and beats up all the racists, which is a great scene.
Oh yeah, love it. I love when he's picking the fights with all the white supremacists in jail. Good fucking shit.
The insults he's throwing around are great.
That is one of the best parts of the show.
I also like that he's actually super capable for being like a self-taught like vigilante. He's like at least on par, maybe even more capable than Peacemaker. I don't know. He does some crazy shit.
Yeah, and he keeps a secret identity too, which again just shows that he is extremely competent.
Although he also calls Peacemaker on the phone and is like, "Hey, it's Adrian." Or, well, I guess he doesn't say who he is, but he says, "Yeah, there's a big heroin shipment coming in. You want to go and
Yeah. I love his costume too.
Oh, yeah, his costume's great.
I know a lot of people don't like how Vigilante's portrayed in the show compared to his comic counterpart, but from what I've read, his comic counterpart is just like, I don't know, a fucking Punisher knockoff. Like, he's just another one of those guys who just goes around shooting bad guys in the streets.
I also don't think he's been relevant for years.
No, he hasn't. Yeah, how many people are you really offending by changing the origin of Vigilante?
Yeah. I wish they did have a bit of a deeper connection, but I did like the one scene after they're tortured. And I feel like Chris actually really warms up to him in that moment because he's like, "What was your name again?" And then I think from then on he starts actually kind of calling him by his name too. After he gets him tortured.
Yeah, it is. That torture scene was hard to watch, but it is also really funny.
The close-up of his toe.
Yeah, I had to look away.
And it's not even like that bad, but just like, you don't expect it. Compared to some of the other stuff, like when they shoot him in the face and then the butterfly comes out of his like destroyed face cavity. Just off the record, I wish they had done him a little better in the second season, because I felt like he didn't have like an arc in that season.
I don't think Vigilante's the kind of character who needs an arc, but I do wish there was more of him. I feel like in the second season, we barely see him until the last couple episodes.
I was expecting kind of an arc between him and Chris, where Chris kind of realizes that he's like his friend more, because he felt very like distant from him in the second season.
I don't know. I mean, I think part of that is going from being who he was before the show started, just this guy who's looking at people like they're statistics and just gunning down anybody. You know, like we hear him talk to Jamil the janitor, another great side character who doesn't have their own blurb on this page. But, you know, he goes after people who are committing crimes and he just murders people. And that's like what Vigilante does. Obviously, Chris has more emotional intelligence than Vigilante, but, like, I think the reason why he might be growing further apart from Vigilante is because he's more emotionally connected with himself and other people. Like, it makes sense. If you're getting closer to people like Adebayo and Harcourt, you're going to be spending less time with Vigilante, who is a straight-up psychopath. I think it's kind of hard. Okay, whatever. A sociopath. It's kind of hard to be best friends with that guy as you're getting more in tune with regular people.
But yeah, I love Vigilante. Definitely some of the best lines.
No, he's great. He's great. And I think in general, like, this show is probably the best vehicle Gunn has ever had to deliver comedy. And honestly, probably overall his best work. I mean, it doesn't look as good as, like, one of the blockbuster movies, like the Guardians movies or the Suicide Squad or Superman, but, like, again, I said it before, it's TV. It's TV. And TV can look good, and it is a good-looking show. Like, there's not too much that stands out to me as, like, looking beautiful. But, like, the point is, the medium is a great fit for comic books, and I think given all this extra time, Gunn makes the most of it, and this, all in all, is probably his best work. Because it's TV, and because he has the extra time to play around with these characters and these stories, and get more action and jokes out of it.
It allows him to do really good character work.
Yes, the stuff that you're just not afforded if you only have a few hours. And then, to round it out, we also have Chukwudi Iwuji as Clemson Mern. And it fucked me up because I kept thinking that the guy's name was Mur, not Mern. So that was really bothering me. I think before this, he didn't really do, like, acting. I mean, like, you know, on screen. I think he was a stage actor that they had found, from what I recall from listening to the official podcast. He's a mercenary, leader of Project Butterfly, reports directly to Waller. Revealed to be a butterfly himself called Ignob Lope. The original mercenary was a bad guy, similar to Peacemaker at the start of the show, but after Ignob Lope possesses Mern, the butterfly uses his body for good by stopping the rest of the butterflies. Iwuji developed a backstory for Mern, since he doesn't exist in the comics, and vocal coach Coley Calhoun helped develop the character's voice. You know, we talked about it earlier, like Harcourt is the straight man, but Myrn is definitely the other straight man.
He's the straighter man.
He's the straighter man. He's definitely more serious, more down to business, but also much funnier when he gets pissed off and, he's fucking yelling at people. I love the character's voice. Iwuji does a really good job with the delivery. I don't have too much to say. I like the twist. It's refreshing to see that, like, one of the butterflies is actually on their side. And, you know, it just goes to show that, you know, you can't judge a book by its cover. Like,
you can't judge a butterfly by its wings.
Yeah, to make a sweeping generalization of the entire race or whatever, because obviously some are going to have independent thought, and, you know, they're not going to all be trying to wipe out humanity. I'm really sad that he died. With the new franchise, I hope we see Iwuji in another role. As you had pointed out before we started recording, we don't see Myrn shown in the recap for Season 2, which was a good point. So if they ever do show Myrn in a flashback, they'll have a different actor, or they'll just never show Myrn again and throw Iwuji into a new role, which I hope they do. He's great. Yeah, I don't know who he would play, but he's got a really nice intensity and also like a flair for theatrics, which we definitely see in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where he plays the High Evolutionary, which is a role he got from working with Gunn on this show. And he's got that same, like, dramatic flair and intensity, and he's just so entertaining. He's a great actor. I really wish he was in more stuff.
I was gonna say I could almost see him as Mr. Terrific.
Yeah,
obviously I really like who we got from Mr. Terrific. But
yeah, no,
he wouldn't be a bad choice. But I was really impressed with his acting in this, especially considering he's not really that much of an actor. And then he died, and then I was like, damn, we won't get to see him anymore. But now that it's like the whole new universe, I would like to see him in something else. I liked too that Peacemaker realized who Clemson Myrn was at the beginning, and he's like, Clemson Myrn, and then he goes on to reveal that he's like this crazy ass mercenary. I like that he wasn't like a kind of like a secret behind the scenes guy. There he's actually known for being like bad and doing really bad things.
Yeah, like just a ruthless piece of shit who gets his hands dirty. Not like Waller, who just pulls people's strings. I
think he played the role really well because he's obviously playing this alien who is taking over his body and doesn't know human emotions and stuff. So he's very like cold and calculated.
Yeah, it's a very weird performance. Like the voice is very unique. I don't know if I've ever heard somebody speak that way.
And then even he's talking to Economist in, I think, episode 2, and he's like talking about how I just shared an emotion with you. I haven't shared an emotion before. And then you think he's just like some weird mercenary, like fucked up mercenary guy who's like has no emotions. But then you realize, or you find out it's actually he's just an alien.
Yeah. And before we move on from our discussion of the characters, I wanted to point out a realization I had while I was watching the show. So this show is about Project Butterfly. The whole overarching plot of the season is about these aliens coming to Earth and trying to take over the world by taking over, possessing people, and like filling in their lives. Body snatchers, right? Basically. And I had the realization that Peacemaker Season 1 is just Marvel's Secret Invasion. This is the Secret Invasion story. Replace the Skrulls with the butterflies, and it's exactly the same. It's the same threat, and it's written so much better. And it's really funny because Marvel Studios would adapt Secret Invasion into a television show for Disney Plus
that would no one watched.
Suck tremendous ass that nobody watched. Yeah, I just thought that was funny because it's like the one time the competing franchise, the knockoff, is doing the TV show, they actually do one of Marvel's most famous story arcs better than Marvel Studios does it.
I know that when this show came out, a lot of people were, actually before I talk about this, did you think it was weird that they moved Peacemaker to like this small town or wherever it was?
Yeah, it's somewhere in Washington, and the way I took
That's
it
what I
is like
thought. Okay.
it's like Evergreen, Washington. And what I kind of interpreted that as is it's like the Seattle, or maybe a suburb of like the Seattle area,
Hmm.
like Pacific Northwest in Washington, but like close to a big city. Uh, I don't know if that's true. I don't know what the DC equivalent of Seattle is, or Portland or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I liked it.
I just thought it was kind of weird that they like moved him to this hospital where he's from. That also happened to be where the mission was going to take place. I don't. It's not a
that
huge
part,
thing, but
yeah. I guess when you put it all out there like that, it is a little convenient. I thought the hospital thing made sense because they knew he was going to go back home, and they knew that he was going to go visit his dad to get gear and shit. But the
maybe,
idea
yeah.
that a lot of the missions would take place around there is a little convenient. Yeah.
But anyway, back to
Like
my original point.
why would Project Butterfly be starting in
Yeah.
Evergreen?
I
Yeah.
mean, maybe they have to travel for missions. I don't know, but so back to my original note before I went on that little bit of a tangent. But a lot of, well, maybe not a lot of people, but people online were complaining that the story of this was just a rehash of the Suicide Squad story, with an alien that is trying to take over by like mind controlling people.
Apples and oranges is my answer to that.
Like on a base level, you're like, oh yeah, that is strange. It's sort of similar stories, but completely different, like ways of doing it. And I think once you watch the whole show, you realize that it's really not all that similar.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to see what you thought.
I never had that impression. I never heard that online, but yeah.
I guess you could just make the argument that for him to do like 2 alien invasion-ish projects in a row, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
But they're just so different that
yeah, they're so different. And honestly, you could get rid of the Project Butterfly stuff, and the main themes of the movie would be the same. Like you could replace it with just his dad doing some bullshit, and he'd still have to kill his dad in some giant scheme to, I don't know, maybe his dad's coming out of retirement.
it is.
And that would actually make the story taking place entirely around Evergreen make more sense, because that's where his dad's located. So maybe that was... I mean, I'm just speculating, but I'm thinking like you could remove all the alien shit and the butterfly shit, and you could still have a Task Force X team or a Waller secret team dedicated to taking out Augie or something. Because that's a villain in the area.
It was honestly kind of surprising how big of a threat Project Butterfly ended up being, because you see in the 3rd episode, I believe, maybe the 4th, you see how far the butterflies have spread, and they're actually all over the world. And even by the end of it, when they try to call in the Justice League and then they don't show up, and then we have the Justice League cameo, and there he says, "You're too late," and then he tells Aquaman he fucks fish or whatever. But it is just surprising how big of a scale it ended up being at the end, I guess, to me.
And maybe it's the fact that they had started in Evergreen, and that's what made Waller pick Peacemaker for the mission. Like, maybe if it was starting in a different city, she wouldn't have picked Peacemaker. And it was just the fact that he was a local guy with connections and shit in the area.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about on the whole?
Not for the plot and the characters and stuff, not really.
The Eagly hug was great.
Oh, such a good payoff. Yeah, so we get a sort semi-appearance of Superman again, and Wonder Woman, and Flash and Aquaman. And then we actually do get Flash and Aquaman up close, which was a great
good surprise.
Thing. That was really nice. It not only is a great surprise, but it's also just really funny. The little exchange they have to hear Aquaman say "fuck you, Barry." It was pretty good.
I was not expecting that cameo when I first watched it, and I was like, that's actually kind of surprising that they got them.
No, I couldn't believe it either.
Could it have just been Aquaman and Flash, though? Like, did we need to... I mean, I guess showing Superman and Wonder Woman kind of implies that they still have faith in the universe, but it kind of was weird to just... because you can clearly tell it's not them. I guess it's good they didn't, though, because when they retcon it, then they actually have the real Superman in it.
That was weird, too. I liked it. what a great start to season 2, where they just, in the recap of season 1, retcon that scene into being the Justice Gang from Superman. Really funny.
Yeah, I mean, we just both think it's a good solid show. Well, great show. I don't know, not solid. More than solid. It's a great show.
No, it's a great show. It's one of the best things that the franchise ever put out. And when you add season 2 to the mix, which is, not technically part of this franchise anymore, it is one of the best things DC's ever made. They need to make more shows like this. And by that, I don't mean 9 seasons of slop like they do on the CW. I mean you hire competent writers and directors and showrunners, and you make good fucking television. So when we say, did it work? Yes. And was it a good idea to bring the DCEU to television? In this case, yes. If there were more shows, would they be as good as this one? I mean, judging from the franchise's... Yeah, hard to say from the franchise's track record, but... and the other question I wrote here was, Peacemaker a good fit for a solo series? In this circumstance, yes, he was. If it was a different showrunner, a different set of writers, inconclusive. But when you've got the guy who directed the movie stepping back to do a show instead, which is kind of weird, right? You don't see film directors usually step down, because that's usually how it's looked at, as a step below movies, to do a TV show and then go back to movies.
But it's something he's passionate about, so I think that's both of these questions. Was it a good idea to bring the DCU to television, and was Peacemaker a good fit? Yes, because James Gunn did it, but I could totally see if they didn't have him on board, it could be like one of the worst shows ever.
Yeah, we could be talking about Secret Invasion. And that brings us to the aftermath of release.
As for reception and critical response, the first season is a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes with an audience score of 87%, and it has a 70 on Metacritic. And there's no box office, since this was not a movie and it was released on streaming. But Deadline would report that Peacemaker's viewership increased with each episode, with the finale hitting peak viewership. According to Samba TV, the finale of Peacemaker Season 1 was watched by 638,000 households in the US. James Gunn himself would say that, at the time, the finale marked the best performance for an HBO Max original show ever, specifically quoting a 44% increase from the premiere to the finale. And also, this is only the US for the previous one. Obviously, there's like other countries, and some countries don't even have HBO Max, so they weren't even able to watch this.
So if Gunn says there's a 44% increase and that it's the best show on HBO Max performance-wise, then I guess we take them at their word. Even though that could just be marketing. Like, we have no idea.
I mean, it would make sense to me, because a lot of people don't even like to start watching until the finale is about to happen. So if 44% of people just waited for 7 episodes to come out, watch the 7 and then watch the 8, then I could see that being reasonable. Yeah,
you make an excellent point with that, because there was a big focus here, like from the Samba TV research, where it's like 638,000 households watched the finale, and it's like, well, you're right, maybe some people watched the entire season in 1 week. And so that number is skewed because it's not a consistently increasing viewership. It could just be people watching all of them at once as more are dropped. Like, we don't know how many of these people are actually hanging on from week to week versus waiting until it's near the end and just consuming the entire show at once.
But apparently the show performed well enough to get a Season 2 greenlight just days after the season finale aired. Due to upcoming changes at DC, the second season would end up a bit different from how it was intended to be, though, which we'll probably get into next episode.
I mean, they wouldn't greenlight a Season 2 right away if they were lying. If the show didn't do well, they wouldn't have, approved a second season. Mm-hmm. I just look at this and I just see another chance to criticize these companies for not being honest with their, not just their audiences, but their shareholders. 2 months after the show ended, David Zaslav would also express dissatisfaction with the state of the brand at the time of the merger, announcing a plan to officially dissolve DC Films in favor of a new division with greater control and oversight over the entire brand, which would include everything outside of the movies, too. His reasoning was that he wanted DC to have a creative Kevin Feige type at the helm, as he figured this would bring them more success, which is kind of what we've been saying the entire time. Like, David Zaslav is a moron, and he's a piece of shit.
But
In this instance, he's correct. Like, we've seen these studio executives playing tug of war over DC as a brand for nearly 10 years. I mean, they didn't even have a fucking name for this thing until 2020. So it makes sense that they would want somebody at the helm who actually could give it one consistent direction. And who is that person? Well, I mean, most people have probably figured it out by now, but for dramatic effect, we'll hold off until next week.
it's Uwe Boll.
And so, Peacemaker demonstrated that the DCEU had a promising future in the world of television. But in that same year, we would all smell what Dwayne Johnson had been cooking up for theaters with the release of his long-gestating project, Black Adam. Thanks for listening. If you liked the episode or hated it, please let us know in the comments below. Additionally, feel free to rate the podcast 5 stars on wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. That reminds me of like when you search Batgirl on like Google Images or something, you like all the way down at the bottom there's just like a picture of her like getting destroyed by Clayface.